Hello everyone and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to the AM News on Global Television. Coming to you from the nation's capital, Abuja, I'm Uyi Agmofwebe, and here's a quick reminder that we are on DSTV channel 365 and on Star Times channel 276. President Bola Tinubu has celebrated Nigerian women at home and in the diaspora, describing them as central to the country's development and progress. In a message to mark the 2026 International Women's Day, the president said women across different sectors of society continue to demonstrate resilience, courage, and determination that sustain the nation. He noted that women play vital roles in nation building, describing them as mothers, entrepreneurs, professionals, and citizens who contribute significantly to the country's development. Meanwhile, Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu has joined thousands of women in Akwa Ibom State for the 2026 International Women's Day celebration in Uyo, the state capital, where President Bola Tinubu received an endorsement for a second term in office. Speaking at the event attended by more than 5,000 participants, the First Lady described the theme Rise, Justice, Action for All Women and Girls as a call for greater commitment to gender equality and empowerment. The rally also featured endorsements for Governor Umo Eno and Senate President Godswill Akpabio, while the First Lady inaugurated a senior citizens center named in her honor. And now to other stories. The House of Representatives has reaffirmed its commitment to strengthening legislative and institutional frameworks aimed at advancing the rights, inclusion, and well-being of women and girls in Nigeria. In a statement to mark the 2026 edition of International Women's Day, the spokesman of the House, Akin Rotimi, said the Parliament remains committed to promoting policies and reforms that expand opportunities for women and address structural inequalities affecting them. Rotimi said the House joined Nigerians and the international community in commemorating the day and recognizing the contributions of Nigerian women, home and abroad, whose efforts continue to shape the nation's social and economic progress. In a related development, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, has called for increased investment in women as a strategic pathway to national development and inclusive growth. Kalu made the call in a statement issued by Special Assistant on Press Affairs, Udora Orizu, to mark the 2026 edition of International Women's Day, celebrated globally on March 8. The 2026 observance is themed Give to Gain, a message that underscores the importance of investing in women through improved access to resources, quality education, and leadership opportunities in order to build a stronger and more equitable society. In his message, the Deputy Speaker said the theme reinforces the long-standing truth that empowering women produces far-reaching benefits for nations. The federal government has reaffirmed its commitment to empowering women-led enterprises as a key driver of Nigeria's ambition to reach a $1 trillion economy, highlighting opportunities under the African Continental Free Trade Area. At a colloquium in Abuja, organized by the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, policymakers, development partners, and private sector leaders discussed ways to improve access to finance, expand market opportunities, and boost the competitiveness of Nigerian businesses with a focus on women entrepreneurs. Speaking at the event, Minister Dr. Jumoke Oduwole described the event as a historic framework connecting over 1.3 billion people across the continent, creating a combined market worth more than $3 trillion. She emphasized that Nigeria's success under the trade agreement depends on strengthening productive sectors and supporting women-led businesses to compete regionally. Meanwhile, Nigeria has joined the global community to mark the 2026 International Women's Day, with the federal government reaffirming its commitment to advancing the rights, economic empowerment, and political inclusion of women and girls across the country. Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development, Imam Suleiman Ibrahim, made this known while flagging off the month-long activities in Abuja. Sadia Yakubu now reports.
The Federal Ministry of Women Affairs in Abuja formally launched Nigerians' activities for the 2026 International Women's Day and Women's Month celebration. Flagging off the commemoration, the Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, described the occasion as more than a celebration, noting that it is a call for reflection on progress made and the urgent work required to advance gender equity in Nigeria. She affirmed the ministry's commitment under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to building a nation where families are stable, women and girls are empowered to realize their full potential, and every child is protected and given the opportunity to thrive.
Let me take this moment to thank the Nigerian press, whose courage, diligence, and commitment to truth amplifying the voices of women and vulnerable holds institutions accountable, shapes public discourse. Although gender-sensitive reporting has historically been limited, recent years have seen a gradual improvement, with more Nigerian media outlets dedicating greater attention to women issues and gender equality.
According to the minister, the 2020's global theme, Bright, Justice, Action for All Women and Girls, alongside the campaign slogan, Give to Gain, underscores the need to institutionalize equity, enforce justice, and ensure that commitments translate into measurable progress. She added that empowering women remains critical to national development, citing an International Finance Corporation estimate that closing the gender financing gap for women-owned SMEs could unlock about $14.8 billion annually for Nigeria's economy.
Today, Nigeria stands as such a pivotal moment where intention, preparation, and structure are aligning to advance the rights, the dignity, and opportunities for women, families, children, and the vulnerable groups in Nigeria.
Also speaking, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, said the event demonstrates government's resolve to advance policies and programs that protect rights, promote justice, and deliver concrete opportunities for women, children, and vulnerable groups nationwide.
I want to commend you on driving the social impact interventions that you have. I commend your dedication, your leadership.
However, stakeholders noted that women's representation in elective positions remains low, stressing that the proposed reserved special seats bill could provide a historic pathway for inclusive governance by addressing structural barriers limiting women's political participation. Sadia Yakubu for Global Television News.
Many thanks to you, Sadia. As the world marks International Women's Day, organizations are highlighting the vital role of women in driving innovation, leadership, and community development. Design and creative firm Erogen Design says the occasion provides an opportunity to celebrate the strength, resilience, and remarkable contributions of women whose dedication and creativity continue to shape businesses and communities. The company also expresses appreciation to women everywhere, noting that recognizing and empowering women remains essential to building inclusive societies and sustainable growth. Vice President Kashim Shettima says the federal government will not tolerate any attempt by terrorists to occupy Nigerian territory following renewed insurgent attacks in parts of Borno State. He said President Bola Tinubu has already ordered a full mobilization of the country's security architecture, including additional tactical assets and intelligence reinforcements to confront the attackers and restore stability. The vice president also assured that those responsible for the attacks and abductions would face the full force of the law as authorities work to rescue victims and secure affected communities. Meanwhile, the federal government says it is preparing plans to evacuate about 1,000 Nigerians from Iran as tensions escalate in the Middle East following the widening regional conflict. Officials say the move is aimed at protecting citizens in the affected areas as security conditions remain uncertain and travel disruptions increase across the region. Authorities have also urged Nigerians in the Middle East to remain in close contact with Nigerian diplomatic missions while arrangements for possible evacuation continue. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has rejected a move by a factional caretaker committee of the Labour Party to dissolve the party state leadership structures across the country. The Commission said such a decision does not comply with the provisions of the Electoral Act and the Commission's guidelines regulating the internal affairs of political parties. The development highlights the continuing leadership crisis within the Labour Party as rival groups battle for control of its national structure. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 election, Peter Obi, has emphasized the importance of the 2027 general elections, saying they will pit Nigerians against bad leadership. Obi made the remarks in Anambra State, where he officially registered as a member of the African Democratic Congress, ADC. The former governor of Anambra State, who has vowed to challenge President Bola Tinubu in 2027, also called on Nigerians to participate in the ongoing online registration of the ADC. The Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Riwandisu, has approved the appointment of Deputy Commissioner of Police Anthony Okon Placid as the new Force Public Relations Officer of the Nigeria Police Force. The appointment places the seasoned officer at the forefront of managing the image and public communication of the force. The newly appointed police spokesperson was enlisted into the Nigeria Police Force as a cadet assistant superintendent of police at the Nigeria Police Academy in Kano in 1996 and commissioned in 1998. Over the years, he has served in key positions within and outside Nigeria, including peacekeeping and training roles with the United Nations Mission in Darfur and the African Union Mission in Sudan, bringing a wealth of operational and strategic experience to his new responsibility. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has approved the confirmation of the appointments of 1,659 staff of the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA. In a statement, Senior Special Assistant to the Minister of Public Communications and Social Media, Larry Olayinka, quoted the chairman of the FCT Civil Service Commission, Emeka Eze, as saying that some of the workers who sat for the confirmation were employed as far back as 2016 and 2019. The 1,659 staff whose appointments were confirmed were among the 2,281 who sat for the confirmation examination conducted by the FCT Civil Service Commission on February 28, 2026. As this year's Ramadan fast enters the final lap, Muslims have been advised to redouble efforts in prayers and other acts of worship. This is because of the belief that the last 10 days, if well observed, warrants freedom from hellfire. In this report, the Global Television correspondent Shehu Said examines the significance of the last 10 days of Ramadan.
The last 10 days of Ramadan is considered the most rewarding in terms of acts of worship and charity. It is the period which attracts the Night of Majesty. What is the Night of Majesty? Imam of the National Mosque, Sheikh Muhammad Kabir, provides an answer.
Bismillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Rasulillah. The Night of Majesty, the Quranic language call it Laylatul Qadr. That is the Night of Majesty. Night of Majesty is the night in which Allah in His infinite mercy revealed the Holy Quran from the Book of Destiny, that is Lawhul Mahfuz, to a place in the space. We call it Baytul Izzah. That Night of Majesty is very, very important to the life of Muslims, because whoever did any righteousness, be it prayer, supplication, or giving out something to help others, whatever kind of kindness, will be double like that of 1,000th month. One night is equivalent to 1,000 month. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran. He says, Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alfi shahr. The Night of Majesty is better than 1,000 months. Another verse of the Quran says, Fiha yufraqu kullu amrin hakim. In that Night of Majesty, Allah in His infinite mercy used to make budget or plan for the year that is ahead. That is from this Ramadan to the next one. So the budget or plan of the year will take place on that very night.
Which acts of worship are more encouraged from Muslims within this period?
This last 10 days is a night in which everybody is encouraged to rise up to wake up in the night, offer special prayers. We call it tahajjud. It is very, very encouraging.
As the Ramadan fast draws near to an end, Muslims should take advantage of this period to be closer to Allah in order to achieve good in this world and in the hereafter. Shehu Said, reporting for Global Television News.
We appreciate you for that reporting there, Shehu. You're watching the live broadcast of the AM News. The news continues after this weather forecast, plus business, foreign and sports stories on the other side of this break for you. Please stay with us.
Hello and welcome to your weather update. There is some welcome relief across much of the northern part of the country as the recent dust episodes begin to ease. The atmosphere is now much clearer and fresher, bringing improved visibility and better air quality across much of the region. However, while the sky remains largely sunny in the north, temperatures are gradually climbing, especially during the afternoon hours. So residents should still expect a fair amount of heat and thermal discomfort through the day. Moving towards the north-central part of the country, it will be largely sunny, although cloud development is gradually increasing, especially around Kogi, Kwara, and parts of Benue State. Meanwhile, parts of the inland cities of the south, including the stretch of the coastal belt, is experiencing isolated thunderstorms during the late afternoon and evening hours. States such as Osun, Ondo, some parts of Edo, Delta, Ogun, Cross River, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, and Bayelsa states. So while clearer air is returning to the northern region, keep an eye out for developing clouds and possible thunderstorms further south. And that's your weather update. Stay weather aware. Thank you for watching.
Well, thank you for staying with us, everyone. The second part of this news broadcast now returns with business, where the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, says the country's economic activity has maintained a strong momentum in February 2026, with the Composite Purchasing Managers Index rising to 56.4 points. This is according to the latest Purchasing Managers Index report released by the Apex Bank. The latest report from the Apex Bank shows this marks their 15th consecutive month of expansion, with growth recorded across key sectors, including industry, services, and agriculture. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria has announced plans to raise 850 billion naira through a fresh treasury bills auction scheduled for March 11, 2026. This is according to the official tender notice mailed to primary market dealers by the regulatory bank on behalf of the Debt Management Office, DMO. This will bring the total amount raised within 1 week to about 2 trillion naira. In another development, the Central Bank of Nigeria says Nigerians repaid about 1.33 trillion naira in personal loans within 1 year, as household borrowing declined sharply between November 2024 and November 2025. This, according to data from the Apex Bank's economic report, shows for November 2025, personal loan balances dropped from 3.32 trillion naira to 1.99 trillion naira during the period, contributing to a broader fall in consumer credits across the banking system. Total consumer credit also declined from 4.42 trillion to 3.19 trillion naira, reflecting reduced activity in personal and retail lending. And now beyond Nigeria, Guinea's military government has dissolved 40 political parties, including the country's 3 main opposition groups, in a late-night decree widely condemned by critics as a further crackdown on political freedoms. The order issued by the Minister of Territorial Administration cited the parties' failure to fulfill their obligations and stripped them of their legal status, assets, and ability to carry out political activities. Among those affected are the UFDG, led by exiled opposition figure Chello Delaine Diallo, the ROPG, linked to former President Alpha Conde, and the UFR. And away from Africa, U.S. President Donald Trump has blamed Iran for a deadly strike on a school in the southern Iranian town of Minab as tensions continue to rise amidst the widening conflict in the Middle East. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, Trump said early indications suggest the attack may have been carried out by Iranian forces themselves. Mukhtar Qasim now reports.
The United States president made the remarks while responding to questions from journalists during a flight on Air Force One, where he addressed the growing regional crisis and the latest report of civilian casualties. Trump suggested that the strike that hit an elementary school in Minab may have been caused by Iranian munitions, describing Tehran's weapon system as inaccurate.
That was done by Iran. Because they're very inaccurate, as you know, with their munitions. They have no accuracy whatsoever. It was done by Iran.
Trump also commented on the broader conflict, warning against further escalation involving other armed groups in the region. He specifically said the Kurdish forces should not be drawn into the fighting, noting that expanding the number of actors involved could worsen the situation.
I don't want to see the Kurds get hurt, get killed. We've had a good relation. They're willing to go in, but I've told them I don't want them to go in.
The remarks comes as the Middle East conflict continues to escalate, with international observers warning that further military involvement by regional groups could widen the war and deepen humanitarian crisis. Mukhtar Qasim, reporting for Global Television News.
In the meantime, United States President Donald Trump says Washington does not need the United Kingdom to deploy aircraft carriers to the Middle East amid the ongoing conflict with Iran. In a post on Truth Social, the president made the remarks after Britain's Ministry of Defense placed its flagship carrier, HMS Prince of Wales, on high readiness. His comments signal growing tensions between the two allies as the United States and Israel continue military operations against Iran following the outbreak of hostilities on February 28. The conflict has raised fears of wider regional instability, with retaliatory strikes from Tehran targeting U.S. allies and casualties reported across several countries in the Middle East. Now time to catch some excitement from the world of sports. The MTN Champs Athletics Classics in Calabar has concluded on day 3 with a standout moment as Nigeria's women's 4x400-meter relay team qualified for the World Relays Championships in Botswana this May. The team, led by 3-time Olympian Patience Okon-George and joined by rising stars Anita Inauna, Treasure Okereke, and Jacinta Lawrence, posted a time of 3.31.14, moving up to 21st in the world rankings and edging out Mexico to secure their spots. Team Ethiopia finished second in 3.38.31, while Nigeria B placed third in 3.40.50. This marks the second occasion a Nigerian team has earned World Relays qualification through the MTN Champs Series, with the upcoming edition set to be hosted on African soil for the first time. Quite impressive. Rising security tensions in the Middle East could force the relocation of an invitational tournament involving Nigeria's Super Eagles, originally scheduled to take place in Jordan later this month. The Super Eagles were expected to face Iran in Amman on March 27 before playing host Jordan 4 days later as part of preparations for upcoming World Cup qualifiers. However, organizers are now considering moving either the Nigeria-Jordan match or the entire tournament to Europe amid growing security concerns linked to the ongoing regional conflict. And still talking football, players of Nigeria's Super Falcons have criticized the Confederation of African Football, CAF, over the latest postponement of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations. Captain Rasheedat Ajibade and several teammates described the repeated delays as damaging to the credibility and development of women's football on the continent. The players called on African football authorities to provide better planning and stronger institutional support for the women's game. And that's the AM News here on Global Television. Just to remind you quickly that we are on DSTV channel 365 and on Star Times channel 276. As always, we encourage you to interact and subscribe across all of our social media platforms using at Global TV NG, as well as other handles as you now see on your screen. I'm Uyag Mofwegwe. Thank you very much for your time with us on the news. Starting shortly is Global Morning.